The great philosopher lay on his deathbed. His disciples crowded around in a reverent hush. The room was packed from the foot of his bed to the door, and the silence of the devout and the devoted filled the chamber. Then his leading disciple bent forward with great veneration and whispered in the great master's ear, "Master, before you depart this world, share with us, please, the secret of life." With great difficulty, the philosopher heaved a few shallow breaths, and barely audibly he said, Life is a river." With great awe, the master's cherished utterance was passed from disciple to disciple, from the bed to the back of the room. Life is a river, life is a river, life is a river. At the back of the chamber, this profound message reached the least of the disciples. He thought for a few seconds and said, "Life is a river." What does that mean? The second least initiated disciple didn't know, nor did the third. So the question was passed hurriedly back to the front of the room. Life is a river. What does that mean? Life is a river. What does that mean? Life is a river. What does that mean? Until the question was whispered into the ears of the master himself. With the final threads of his life unweaving, the philosopher breathed his last words, "Okay, so it's not a river." Studying philosophy doesn't teach you the secret of life. The secret of life is to be found in something much closer to home. Most of the time we slide from one wish fulfillment to another. We're hungry, so we pop a morsel of food into our mouths without thinking about why we're eating it. We're bored, so we make a joke or we play a video game. Much, if not most of our time, we allow our instincts to drive us with nary a second thought. One of the great Torah sages of the previous generations, Rabbi Yerucham Levovitz, once wrote, "I found that I'm not in control of my actions. Rather, I'm ruled by a foreign body, namely, my physical drives. I'm therefore taking upon myself to go against my demands, the demands of my instincts, 5 times a day." We may not be on the level of Rabbi Yerucham, but even if once a day we would think about why are we eating, we would discover the secret of life. Small but oft repeated actions battle our lower instincts and make us more spiritual, less captive to our physical desires. We start to think about why we're doing things. What are we here for? Ultimately, we become more aware of God. In this week's Torah portion, Vayeishev, Tamar is led out to be executed after falsely being accused of adultery. As she passes Yehuda, the father of the unborn child, she says, "Identify if you please." Rashi explains that she was not just asking him to identify, to recognize the pledges that made him the child's father, but also to recognize his creator and not let 3 innocent lives be lost, hers and that of the unborn twins inside her. Tamar's plea was to Yehuda's moral core. Let the truth overcome the devastating embarrassment of admitting that you're the father-to-be. Real awareness of our Creator comes only through a great test. Can we sacrifice our own vested interests for a higher principle? And being able to pass that test takes years of work. But it all starts with being able to pass a test as small as turning down a chocolate cookie. This is the true path to God consciousness, and that's no mere philosophy.